So let's have a look at this DS scope. Starting at the front, we have the iris, which can be closed for storage or gradually opened for daytime use. This is also part of the focus free, which we'll cover a little bit later. You can then open the lens fully. Generally for nighttime work, the focus free will also work at night. You just need a little bit more IR for your distances than you would with the lens open to let more light in. We have an IR torch on the left, in and out as normal for spot and focus. Now, interesting new feature, you can undo the lens slightly, then you can actually press the front of the lens and aim it. Once you've got the light in the correct place, you just tighten it back in your spot. This doesn't affect your spot and flood, that still works as normal. Then we have the laser rangefinder. We have the full focus knob. Nice throw lever on it. Now, while you're using focus free, this doesn't make a lot of difference, but when the lens cap is fully open, it certainly does. And how I would use it is normally focus it for probably an average range, and certainly during the day, leave that closed unless you want a perfect image later. Included in the box are normal 30mm rings. This is a 30mm tube, same as most scopes now. These are arms quick attach mounts that we use so we can swap this between rifles. Your battery is located horizontal inside one of the turrets. You simply replace the battery, positive first, and close the cap. The left-hand turret does nothing, just has the PARD logo on it. It actually doesn't move at all. The top turret, however, is your master control. You can click down. Rotating clockwise will cycle between the first level of magnification, the optical, so 5.6, and then up to 11.2 in this one, and then back again. If you cycle to anti-clockwise, the menu will start appearing on the screen. A long press of the button will activate the full menu for you. Then with some buttons on the back side, so you've got your power on the left, single tap to put it into sleep mode, long press to turn it on and off. Then we have our day-night IR control with photograph or video next to it, and then we have the laser rangefinding button. And because this has got ballistics, single press will activate the rangefinder, apply that to your target, the next press will lock in that range and you'll see your new aiming point, which we'll cover in another video. At the back you have your focus ring, so you can focus the eyepiece to your eye. It's quite a large movement, and as discussed before, this eyepiece actually gives you about 100mm of eye relief, which is enormous for a night scope, and it is completely circular inside. Now with every box you get a set of 30mm high rings. These will certainly suit every rifle. In the case of mine, a low ring will actually suit, and because they're 30mm rings you can actually use other rings as well. Inside a little box you've got your USB cable and a lens cloth. Little manual explaining all the functions of the unit, and they have also included a neoprene scope cover that you can stretch across. Slide your scope in just to protect it during use. Now during night it's going to release some light onto your face. You can actually screw in the rubber eyepiece, and it simply screws inside the thread that's in the eyepiece. Locks on, cannot fall off, and then you're able to cover your eye. When you don't need that anymore, simply unscrew it and pop that somewhere safe. Let's have a look at the eyepiece. Now, unlike normal night vision scopes, this actually gives you 100mm of eye relief. That is very much like a normal day scope, which translates to a much nicer image. Plus it's also completely round, and that reticle is always going to be in the middle. Look at me actually moving in from the way back on the rifle right up close. And here's my 22, and you can actually see it's a very natural shooting position that you wouldn't actually know this was a night scope because of the eye relief alone. So let's have a look at the actual reticle in the screen itself. Now it's completely round, very much like a day scope. The reticle is always in the center. This was recorded with an iPhone attached to the back. It's a little bit overexposed from the phone itself, the images are actually more like from the sensor on the right. And as you can see, this was filmed with the cap closed and the iris open, so it's actually reduced a lot of the glare and vastly improved the daytime image. Now, what do we mean by focus free? Well, the front lens cap actually contributes to what we call focus free. If you look at this image, we are unfocused at 25 meters. Now, I've actually focused the lens for about 250 meters, simply closing the cap with the iris open, and literally everything is in focus. So let's take this a bit further. So this is 250 odd meters and the lens cap is fully open. Now I've focused for those trees in the distance. And let's look around over a wide range of different ranges, 100 odd meters. Have a look at the driveway, the grass, the fence post. You can all see it's now pretty much out of focus, particularly that fence post, down to 30 odd meters, and down to the gate, a little bit more in focus. Now the cap is fully open. So let's go back to our original trees and we'll close the cap. Now let's do the same trip. Look at the fence post, it's actually in focus. Look at the driveway and the grass, huge difference to the actual focus. Now while it's not perfectly focused, we're talking about 80-90% usability from 200 and something meters right down to sort of 25 meters or even closer for some of those fence posts, and they're pretty much in focus. So suddenly now if an animal appears close to you, you don't need to worry so much about the focus. And yes, it actually does work at night as well. Here are a couple more examples where I am opening and closing the cap. As you can see, it's out of focus. Close the cap and it's in focus. Now this focus is set about halfway. And if we go back to those trees that were 25 odd meters, you can see they're in focus. And if I open the cap, there you go, they're out of focus. Very usable and an absolute brilliant feature. Let's look at the controls and the screen. If we rotate the top turret clockwise, we activate the digital zoom. So it's now 11.2 in the top right hand corner. Continue another click around and it's back to its optical of 5.6 in the case of this 70mm lens. It just jumps between the two. If you rotate the top turret anti-clockwise, all that menu will disappear. It will also disappear with time. In the top left hand corner we've got battery, then the Wi-Fi, which is turned off at this stage. We are currently on profile A. There is a compass bearing and the time. In the right hand side the IR light is turned off. We've got an angle of 62 degrees because I'm pointing it towards the floor. We're canting 4 degrees, which is quite sensitive. And the last one is the last range that we entered. If we single press the top turret, we come into the short menu, starting with the Ballistic Calculator, Range Unit, Reticle Adjustment, Default Magnification, Default Color, and Display Brightness, which I've, in this case, turned right down so my iPhone will not wash out. If we go back to the Ballistic Calculator, you can turn it on or off if you don't wish to use it. And that's controlled by the laser rangefinder button. But you must enter the parameters first, so single press down of the turret, and you've got the ballistic data for profile A. If you twist the turret, it will then change for each profile, which in this case they default by the same. As you click down, it will move down, and you simply rotate the top turret to make all the adjustments. Now if you want feet per second, you simply change the range to yards in a different menu. You've got your BC, which is G1, your altitude, your temperature, your scope height, your zero range, and then you can adjust your shape and color of the aiming point for the ballistics. Simply press the rangefinder button to go back. Your range unit, meters or yards, which again affects the feet per second or meters per second. Simply select the one and click down on the main turret. Reticle Adjustment, which is also where you change your profiles. As you can see, we're currently on profile A. Simply rotate the top turret and you'll be able to select your other profiles. If we want to change our aiming point, bear in mind the reticle is always in the middle. You will simply fire it at a target and you will move the reticle, which will freeze, by simply dialing on the top turret, left and right as required. Single click to go to the y-axis, and the cross represents your new aiming point. You're then able to change the style, which is your type of reticle, your different colours, and then you want a long press of the OK, which is the down on the central turret. Default magnification, you can set the start up. I recommend you leave it on 5.6. Your default colour, so colour is your full day. Black and white, yellow and green are your night modes. So black and white's a traditional, and then you've also got a yellow tinge or a green tinge for your night. Now if we exit this menu, just a single press of the rangefinder button. If you long press of the menu button, what actually looks like the same menu, you can see you've actually got a few extra buttons. Your default brightness of your IR, I would recommend leaving that off. Your display, your auto power off, various recording, self-recording, date stamp, recording audio, etc. These are all located in there, along with formatting the SD card and seeing what version you've got. Again, press the rangefinder button to get back.